You've been hiding in the shadows way too long. You always thought that you were weak, but babe, you're wrong.
Hi everyone, my name is Kathy
And I'm Koi,
and I am every woman. So today guys, we want to talk about how your childhood affects your relationships. How does the things which you know as a child that happened to you as a child, how do they affect your current relationships, whether it's positively or negatively?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And how to break that cycle.
Mm-hmm.
When we think about our childhood, the first thing that comes to mind is childhood traumas. It's a big thing now,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And everybody's speaking about that. But sometimes it could be very subtle things that happen that
Mm-hmm.
look as if, they're normal things,
Mm-hmm.
but they affect, the way you interact with people. And not just, romantic relationships, but even just friendships in general. Part of who we are is the experiences we've gone through. And majority
It's
of
pretty much everything.
exactly
It's based on your history.
yeah and some of the things that happen to us or we experience when we are children stick with us, and you, unless you're self-aware, sometimes it affects you and you don't know where that stems from. Yeah.
And sometimes it's not necessarily something bad that someone did.
Yes.
It's just some circumstance.
Yes.
That has ended up affecting you negatively.
Right.
And it's your job.
Yeah.
It's your responsibility to identify it.
Yeah.
And then to break it.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, do you have a few things that you can say have affected the way you relate with people in your adulthood that you can relate to them to childhood experiences?
Definitely. So I'm going to start with the first one that I want to talk about. So I am the last born in a family of 7 children.
Yeah.
And as typical last borns, I was treated like a last born. I was sent everywhere by everyone. I was never given real relationships and real duties, responsibilities until much later.
Yeah.
So I sort of internalized that as the baby of the home. And so in my relationships, let me just say I have a very serious complex. I don't want any guy that sends me. The guy who says, please bring me that. And I'm thinking, my first reaction is always, don't send me.
Yeah.
And I know that a lot of times it's actually unreasonable. It's just something, normal, but it is a complex that I have. And if I particularly come across a guy who actually enjoys, sending, who, like in our parents' generation, where dad would just be seated and would tell mom to bring him water. And mom would actually get up and bring water.
Yeah.
That's something I know I can't do.
Yeah.
But based on my childhood.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I was sent so much. And therefore I cannot get together with someone who expects me to get up and go get something.
Yeah.
I've worked on it. I've broken the cycle, I'd like to say. But I make it clear that if we are seated watching TV, there is no way I'm getting up to get you water. I'm sorry. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but that one I don't care. But if I do get up to get my water, then if you say, please do you mind bringing me one, that's okay. Yeah. I'll bring mine and I'll bring yours.
Because you're already doing it anyway.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's interesting that you started with that one because when we think about childhood experiences or childhood quote-unquote traumas, I'm using the word trauma with a lot of caution. We attribute that to parents or lack of parents being present, rarely with siblings. And it's interesting that just
they play a really big part.
Yeah, your experience because you, for example, if it's going to school, you're probably being escorted by your siblings, or you're working together with your siblings. At home, you're playing with your siblings. Yeah. And in the earlier days, our parents would even leave us without any chaperone, and it would be just
the siblings,
you and the siblings. So they affect how you relate with people as an adult. In my case, I am a middle child. So we are 3 in the family, and my eldest is very strong-headed, and then my youngest was very mischievous when he was younger. And so, being a middle child, I found myself wanting to create harmony, and I would hate it when, for example, my elder sister or my younger brother getting into trouble, because that would mean when mom comes home, that the mood will change because it will be a disciplining evening, and it wouldn't be a happy situation. And so I felt always cornered to the point of I'm trying to get my siblings to do the right thing. And of course, they used to look at me as a snitch versus trying to make sure that when mom comes home, everything is in order, because we can't keep having her being mad at, oh, someone broke this or someone didn't do whatever they were told to do. And because of that, I found myself being quote unquote a fixer. So by default, in any relationship, I try to fix things. I try to fix someone. I try to fix things until I realize sometimes it might be helpful, but other times it might come off as being either I know it all, and domineering. I'm domineering, and my friendships, even, and not just romantic relationships, but even friendships, it would feel as if I'm quite, as you say, domineering, because I'm coming from a point I want to fix it. Yeah. So that's one of the things that I'd say I'd experienced. So yeah.
Have you tried to break the cycle?
Yes, I have tried to break the cycle. So nowadays, I try to fast, not give unsolicited advice.
That's a big one.
Yeah.
I struggle with that.
Yeah, so unless someone says, what do you think? I try, of course not always, sometimes you find yourself giving, but I try to catch myself and say, you know what, I can be there for this person, but unless they want me to give them advice, then I don't have to.
Yeah.
And sometimes I let it be, like, let it break. Whatever you think will happen if you don't fix, let it be. Sometimes lessons are best learned from actually going through a challenge. So just let it be. And so I'm learning. I'm still in the journey of trying to know that just because I went through what I went through, I'm a fixer, it doesn't mean that my role is to fix everybody around me. If I need to be a friend, then I'll be a friend, not a fixer. If I need to be a girlfriend, I'll be a girlfriend, not a fixer. If I need to be an auntie, I'll be that, not a fixer. Yeah.
I hear you. I think modern day heroes are people who break cycles.
Yeah.
And this might appear to be trivial, but I really don't think it is, because it does affect the choices of the people around you.
Yeah.
The choice of spouse. It also directly affects the relationship that you have with those people. So I don't know. I always find that breaking the cycle is a very, very hard one.
Yeah, it is. And breaking cycles may include doing something that is not the norm. Actually, it is. Breaking the cycle is doing something that's not the norm. That goes against. And every time you're either swimming, against the current, even when you're like chopping wood or cutting meat, across the grain, it's tougher. So as you break cycles, you expect it to be much, a lot of work, painful event, a painful experience, but uncomfortable,
uncharted waters.
Yeah.
So I'll move on to my second one.
Yeah.
I have three.
Okay.
So this is my second one. Again, the last one.
Yeah.
I wasn't taken seriously.
Oh, okay.
Again, I was the baby.
Yeah.
It was always, if I say something, everybody in the room knows better than me.
Yeah.
So I wasn't taken seriously, most of the time.
Yeah.
And so I find myself having to be serious. Overdoing it maybe sometimes. I just feel like I really just want to be serious. And if I'm with, say I'm with someone, even just a friend, and I said something and they laughed at it, I can take it very badly. If I get even a whiff of imagination that you're not taking me seriously, or I say something and you trivialize it, I tend to really overreact. Used to tend to overreact. So these days, at least, I check myself. I ask myself, okay, wait, is that normal? Would that person have said that to someone else? Would they have taken it as seriously? Is it important to me? Can I just walk away? But if it is someone who I consider to be important to me, someone I'm going to be in a relationship with, if I suggest something and I don't feel like they put enough importance to it, that can be a deal breaker for me.
Wow.
Yeah.
But then did you stop to ask yourself that it could be important to you, but then it's not important to them, but it doesn't mean that they're not supporting you. It's just something that, so for example, let's say it's a partner, like a relationship, right? And this guy maybe likes, let's say, football. So you listen to what he has to say, but football is not important to you. It doesn't mean that you're not taking it seriously for them. You support them if they need space to go, watch soccer. You let them, but it's not important to you. So if we flip that and it's something that's important to you, but it's not a big deal for them, but it's not because they're making fun of it, but because
that's the key thing. To not support is not that much of an issue. To make fun of it,
I see,
is what rubs me off the wrong way.
Yeah.
It's a proper complex. It's really something which I know. I second guess myself. I will get upset. I will go, and I will second guess myself because it's something I know I've done several times.
Yes.
I have overreacted about it, basically because of my history.
Okay. And then I'll just raise the same question. What are you doing to break that cycle? Because let me say this. Because I think, especially with things that are important to you, I have come to learn that you need to buy into the idea first. And you need to buy it so much so that even if someone does not see it as important or makes fun of it, you know what it is for you, and you can be able to push through without seeking that validation.
Let me give you a practical example.
Yeah.
I dated a guy once, and one time he was supposed to go for a party, and he didn't come. So his friends were there. One friend was there. And I said, hey, what's up? Where's your friend? And the guy said, oh, he went out of town. And I said, he what? He went out of town. We had this event to attend. We're not coming from the same house. But he went out of town. Is there an emergency? And the friend, guys cool. Oh, no, what, he'll tell you. And so eventually I find out there's no emergency. They just went to do something. It was an impromptu trip, but he didn't tell me. You see, maybe to someone else that would have been, just come back and I'd say, why wouldn't you tell me and move on? But for me, it was a deal breaker. I just said, listen, if you're going somewhere, you tell me. You can't be in a different town and me and you are together and I don't know and other people know. That doesn't make any sense. You could have just sent me a message or something. And that was a deal breaker. Actually, that relationship broke.
Because of that?
Because of that.
Oh,
because of that, yeah. So, how do I break the cycle? I communicate. I communicate. Because that I still feel very strongly about. There are things which I think are important. You should say. If you don't say, for me, it's a deal breaker. So I make it clear. Because I believe in a relationship between two people, then the other person is an important person to you. And you are an important person to them. So if they have a complex, you should know it. And you, of all people, shouldn't be the one to feed it. You should be the one to protect from it. And I honestly don't feel it's an unreasonable thing that before you do something as major as going out of town, that you should let me know.
Okay. I agree and disagree. I agree that communication needs to be there. But then my question would be, had that communication been given before that incident? Because I know people, the same way you go into a relationship with certain behaviors because of your experiences, it's the same way maybe that person was thinking it's not a big deal. And maybe genuinely they would have listened. And so my question would be, one, in that particular situation, do you think by quote unquote breaking the cycle, it would have been best to communicate what you need and then give another chance instead of breaking it up at that point?
You're right. The idea is to communicate and then give a chance. But I think in that one there were a lot of other things
Oh,
anyway.
okay.
Yeah, but that was the straw that broke
The last straw, yeah. Okay. Yeah, I hear you. But you know, we can't, and I know everywhere you go, and you know, anywhere relationship issues are being discussed, communication is key. But I always, and I've also come to learn, especially with men, don't even hint, just communicate outright. If you want an SMS before they go, say it, because what is important to you as a woman is totally different.
Even to another woman.
Yes.
Sometimes,
And so I think it's really important to be very clear. Don't expect and then get heartbroken.
That's true.
Communicate.
That's true.
Okay, so for me, one more thing that I would say has really affected how I actually relate with my partners, or like especially how I choose a partner, like a relationship, like a romantic relationship, is that initially, so my dad was a good dad, but you know, after as I grew up, I realized he was not a very good spouse. And so of course, you know, when you're you know, looking for someone to settle down with, you try and look for things you've seen, like what is that definition of a good spouse. And I remember thinking my dad was probably not a good spouse because he used to drink a lot and he was a chain smoker. And I would see how that would affect my mom. In my head, that's what I thought that being a bad spouse is. And so I found myself, especially when I was when I was, you know, looking for a husband, when I was looking to date intentionally to get married, I was looking for someone who doesn't drink and doesn't smoke. And I was looking, instead of looking for someone who's good for me, I was looking for someone who's not like my father. I was chasing, I was looking to break the cycle, but I wasn't doing it for me. I was doing it based on what I had seen. And I think that was a big lesson for me. And I'd like to say, as you mature and you grow and you know, start thinking about building your own family, you need to unlearn a lot of things. You need to unlearn a lot of things and then build afresh and define what, for example, a good family looks like for you based on what you want.
That's true.
And then with that, then how does that spouse, who is that spouse that will be able to handle what you're looking for so that you can look for a common goal? So that's a mistake I did. And yeah, I ended up getting married to a man who doesn't drink, who doesn't smoke, but he wasn't a good spouse for me. Again, I was looking for someone who's not like my father because I thought my father was a good dad but not a good spouse. I wasn't looking for a spouse for my needs.
You knew what you didn't want, but you didn't actually know what you wanted.
Yes. Dangerous, huh? Dangerous. But yeah, so I think that for me was a personal experience. So again, unlearn the things you see.
Definitely. Make sense out of it.
Yeah.
Self-awareness.
Yeah.
So I'll go on to my third and last one.
Okay.
So this one is a big one. So growing up, again, the last one, the other sibling that was around me as I started being aware of myself was a brother. And he was in a lot of ways my hero. He was taller, he could do great things, he could open high doors which I couldn't reach. You know, I just thought it was so cool and so sharp. And he really used to look out for me. He was a really good big brother. He really looked out for me as his baby sister. But his character, he was the life of the party. He was the lively guy, the guy with jokes, the guy who appears to never be serious, especially when you're in a party. But in real life, he was a very serious person. He used to be left very serious responsibilities, and he plays a big part in the family that way. So I grew up thinking, that these guys you see in the party, the life of the party,
Mm.
were serious people.
Aha.
And those were the only people I could relate with, because
Yeah.
you see, as a girl, when you're relating with boys, the first boys you relate with is your father, your brother.
Yeah.
So these two men really shaped my life.
Yes.
You know, my dad was the farm guy, the guy who was larger than everything. But my brother was the guy. He's supposed to be my age, but he's just that guy who can ride a bike, you know, cool things.
Yeah.
So it really affected the kind of person that I gravitated towards.
Right.
I found myself going towards the life of the party guy and thinking it's going to take me as seriously out of the party. That didn't work.
Yeah.
It didn't work. The first time, the second, the third. At some point, I was like, okay.
Yeah.
Something needs to change here.
Yeah.
There's something wrong.
Yes.
And so at one point, we were discussing with my girlfriends and they're saying, you know, we feel, I don't know if this is true, but we feel that if a guy sees you in a bar, he puts you in a box in his brain that says girl in a bar.
Yeah.
And I don't know that ever changes.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's true or not.
Maybe. Because they even saved you the name, your name, and then where they met you.
Exactly.
So if it's a club.
Exactly. That never goes away.
So Kathy, Club XYZ.
Exactly. So that took me by surprise.
Wow.
And maybe just in the same breath also, if I may. Or shall I wait for you to do yours?
Just go ahead.
I go ahead. I was the last one. Once again, I was a snitch. I was daddy's little girl, daddy's little handbag. Whenever daddy comes, I have to tell him everything that happens.
Yeah.
And daddy's approval was everything to me.
Yes.
So obviously the older siblings didn't like me much. You know, if they're doing something classified, they'll chase me away. And again, a lot of times this brother that I lived with. So I wasn't allowed to go into his room unless he allows, which was once in a blue moon. But generally, you know, you know, all the time, just leave. And so I learned how to be okay with the crumbs that I get. Just the one random day that will say it's okay, you can come in, was heaven to me. So believe it or not, I grew up
and you felt like it's a privilege.
I felt like it was a privilege.
Oh, wow.
I grew up at some point being okay with a guy who is unavailable, who only sees me a short time. And I had two girlfriends in college, first year, and we were just getting to know each other. And I was dating this person who had another girlfriend. So I was just a side chick. And then that didn't work out, and I picked up another one promptly. And these girls called me out, and they were like, wait, you have a pattern. Why are you picking unavailable guys? And I hated them for it. It's a very hard thing when someone says, look at this mirror, this is your pattern.
Yeah.
So I really hated it, but I was very annoyed. But I sat and thought to myself, why am I annoyed? There must be some truth there. And I was like, oh my God. When I looked back, I realized that is actually what I was doing.
Yeah.
I was being okay with crumbs.
Yeah.
Because that's all I got as a child.
Yeah.
I thought it was normal.
Yeah.
I don't even expect, my parents would never have picked up a thing like that.
No, never.
Yeah.
And you saying, for example, that when your big brother allowed you into their room and you feel so happy, I would translate that to when this, unavailable person gives you attention for one day, you're thinking, oh my God, that is amazing.
One day is a lot. Even just a snippet. And I thought that was fine because I had internalized that is all I deserved.
Yeah. You see what you're saying about unlearning things? Because, for example, first and foremost, having a big brother who's like your hero is not a bad thing. You staying out of your brother's room is not necessarily a bad thing. But then you can imagine how such a simple experience or an innocent experience would translate into how you relate with the opposite sex. That's quite interesting.
And if it were not for my two friends calling it out, I probably would have never picked it up.
Yeah.
And till today, it just occurred to me now in my 40s and all the way from the 30s, my loudest love language is quality time. Yeah, that's my loudest.
Yeah.
I take the quiz and that's the one that screams out.
Yeah.
Because you can see why.
Yeah.
I only used to get bits.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So that was a big one.
That's a big one.
Yeah, that was a big one.
So my loudest love language as well is quality time. But mine doesn't mine doesn't stem from there. Mine actually stems from abandonment issues, but not intentional. So first and foremost, my parents separated, and the saddest thing is that when my dad left physically, because he's the one who left home, I saw it. He left. And then, after that, I probably just saw him maybe once. He never came back.
To see you.
As much as I am at peace with the fact that I know now that he didn't know any better, he didn't have the skills, or he hadn't, let me put it again, done the work for himself, but he didn't show up for me,
Yeah.
And then a few years later, my mother left the country to for greener pastures. And honestly speaking, I didn't think it was a big deal until I was much older. And instability was introduced. I never lacked anything. I never lacked food. I never lacked school fees. I never lacked clothing. I never lacked anything. I have my mother's siblings, my family on my mother's side were very supportive. But the one thing that they wouldn't give me is a place that I would actually call home. Yes, I had many homes, but I didn't have home. And when I say home, is where you have a parent, where you can go to. And so, as much as I would, visit, one auntie after the other, and, they were all, well up, and it's not like it was a struggle, but I didn't have home. And so, because of that, my first and foremost, my house, and I think I said this in a video before, that my house is very sacred. I don't let, if you're not here within my circle, I don't let you home. And because it's I would say, I don't know, it's just a sacred place for me that I had to build for myself. I never had it. I had to build it for myself. And so that for me was big. And then, so the other thing is, I started by saying, quality time is a big love language for me. It's because I can't handle people leaving. I was left too many times, and I can't handle people leaving. You see, even when maybe you're in an argument with a partner, and then someone says, "I need to take 5 minutes. I need to take a walk." Let me tell you, that hurts me way more than probably the mistake that is being handled. Like just walking out on me, out of the door, that just breaks me.
And that's a proper complex, because to me that wouldn't be a big issue. In fact, I'd be happy. I'd be like, yeah, good. Come back when you're sober.
No.
But to you, it's a different thing.
It's a different thing. It's a different thing. But as we say, it's a journey. We always work on ourselves. We have to break the cycle. So for me now, I've gotten to a point where I'm trying to understand, if someone says they need 5 minutes, that's just exactly what they're doing. It's what they need at that point. And
they'll come back a better person.
And they'll come back a better person, so that we can be able to deal with that. And then another thing I've had to deal with is understanding that home is where you feel love. It doesn't necessarily mean a physical place. And so this actually hit home in maybe just a year and a half ago, when I finally moved out of a house that I'd lived in for 5 years. And I moved into a bigger space, more like everybody who comes into that space, they say, oh my God, they really like it. They like it better than where I was. But for me, the other one was a home that I built, for me. And I was really emotionally attached. And just leaving that house, it felt like, oh my God, I'm losing that stability that I had built. But then I think now I've been able to work on that and just acknowledging that, you know what? Home is where you build. Home is where you feel love. Home is where your heart is. And it doesn't necessarily need to be tied to, a physical space that you create. And right now I'm at a point I don't really mind. Like, I have moved on past that, but I think it was a journey. And again, it needed me to look in the mirror and really
And that's the
understand
knowledge.
what is that. What is that
And,
for me?
and identify it for what it is.
Yeah.
I have one for you.
Yes.
This is going to be interesting. So
Yes.
by the way, guys, who is my niece?
Yes.
Her mother is my sister.
Yeah.
Rest her soul. She died. My sister was the most generous person alive. She had a heart bigger than anything, you know. And her home was always full of people, always.
Yeah.
And it didn't matter how many people are there, she's still saying, please come. And if you don't come, she gets offended.
Yeah.
So there was always plenty of people, which means even food had to be cooked in big quantities. Even tea had to be, you know, she wasn't wealthy. She would have never been wealthy. She was too generous.
Yeah.
And so even if there's a cup of milk, it has to be stretched to feed everyone. That was just her having a big heart. So she would have a house girl, she would have another former house girl, she would have a relative of her husband, and she would have all these people. And her children, all 3 children, don't like people in their house.
No, that's true.
They all make sure, it's not that they don't want people to go, but they don't want you to come and imagine you're coming to camp there.
No.
Which is the direct opposite of their mother. And I understand that because really my sister used to overdo it. Yeah. She really just overdid it. It was just a big heart.
Yeah.
And that is a direct relationship of why you guys are the way you are.
Yeah, we are the way we are because at that point, as much as that was generosity to other people, it meant that we had no space for us as children.
I understand that.
And we always had to probably quote unquote lack in some areas so that can be extended to other people. And so yeah, it's true. Like my space, and I've seen it in my siblings as well. I mean, you're welcome to stay for a day or two. Past that, I'm happy to help you from afar, but not in your space. Yeah,
I understand that.
Space. Yeah,
I totally understand that.
Yeah.
I picked that one out for you.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. So childhood traumas. As we finish, childhood experiences are not necessarily. They can be childhood traumas, and some of them are even deeper than what we are talking about here today. But I think we just wanted to touch on that and just let people know that sometimes even the most innocent experiences, the most normal, very subtle experiences can actually influence how you interact with others, how you engage with others, and they can actually define who you are as a person. And you need to be able to always be self-aware, be on the lookout to see, is it impacting me positively, is it impacting me negatively, and so that you can be able to break that cycle. Because believe it or not, how you pick that up, whether negatively or positively, it will be passed down to your children, and they'll pass it down. So it's always a good idea to be able to.
It will also determine your life.
Yeah.
When I was the only unmarried person in my family, my father told me, background maketh a person. So I think what he was trying to say is, in your quest for a spouse, just make sure his background is not as different from yours. It's not that different from yours.
Right.
And he didn't mean a background different from yours won't work. But what he meant was, you will be swimming upstream.
Yes.
You will really be swimming upstream. There will be a lot of problems to sort.
Yeah.
It calls for a lot of strength of character.
Yeah.
And sometimes that won't always happen.
Yeah.
So it is so much easier to get someone who has a background that's not so different from yours.
Yeah.
So I feel like there's a little bit of a connection there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because here we're talking about small, subtle things.
Yeah.
But with background, it comes with many other things. Because if you imagine someone who comes, say, from the royal family, and they're rich and they have all this exposure, if you are just coming from a humble background, that's gonna be tricky.
It's gonna be tricky.
Yeah, there's no way things are gonna be the same.
Right.
You generally have seen things through different lenses all your lives.
Yes.
It's very hard to undo.
Yes.
At a later age.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So yeah, I think that's quite insightful. Just being able to make sure that you're aware that even if you get a spouse with a different background from you, you're aware, and that just means you might need to put in a little bit more work, and hopefully both of you have open communication so that you can actually come to a compromise and an understanding. But I think the main point today is that these experiences, or childhood traumas, they're not necessarily traumas all the time. Sometimes it's just an experience that shapes how you think, how you see life, how you actually even behave. I know even as mothers, sometimes you say, you look at yourself and the way you treat your children, sometimes you say like you feel like you've morphed into your mother. Yeah, you feel like you've morphed into your mother, and it's normal. But I think the most important question is just checking: is it positively impacting my life, or is it negatively impacting my life? And if it's negatively impacting your life, then that means you need to unlearn something and create new habits and new ways of doing things for the sake of your children and your children's children,
and for your own sake,
and for your own sake, and for your own growth. That's right. So so let us know what you think about that. What are some of the interesting childhood experiences that you have faced, that you feel have had an impact in your relationships or in your way of parenting? We'd like to hear from you. Please comment, like, share, subscribe, share this video with your friends. And let's hear from you. Until next time, bye.
You've been hiding in the shadows way too long.